So what I have is two screens of what I sometimes call the SEDA ladder of publications, because we have something which starts at the very easiest, which is the SEDA blog, and ends up with the most challenging, which is a book in the SEDA series. So we run a blog, and you can find it obviously on our website, and we invite short blog type contributions, and it's got to be catchy, and it's got to be journalistic, and it's always good to have a picture. And you send the blog in to the SEDA office, or you have a word with Becky Turner, who's enormously approachable, and she sometimes organizes the sequence of blogs. I think blogging is very interesting because it's not the style of academic writing that we're all trained to do. And some people can do it falling off a log, and other people feel that the log has fallen on them. So it's a tricky business. But you may be comfortable with blogging, in which case feel free to use the SEDA blog. Any comments about that? Any questions? Okay, well, in that case, now we turn to educational developments. This is a quarterly magazine. It's our newsletter, and we call it explicitly, we call it a magazine, not a journal. And we managed to get 4 out a year, and we have done for 22 years. Last year, we only got 3 out, but I think we can be excused that because we were a bit busy doing other things. And they're usually 24 or 28 pages. They usually have 7 or 8 articles, and we limit articles to 3,000 words maximum, because we want short, punchy, effective pieces. Sometimes we commission them, and sometimes people send us things that we're delighted to publish. When something comes in, it goes around a committee, and sometimes we ask for minor changes. Sometimes we make minor changes without even asking for them. And very, very rarely do we ask for major changes. I've written the words both scholarly and practical. 20 years ago, this was a far less scholarly publication than it is today. Today, we sometimes have too many references. I know it sounds anti-academic, but we have sometimes pushed it back and said, can you reduce the number of references? In one case, we would have had to have contributed a whole page of references. Now, references are fabulous and exciting. The audience that are reading this have read an awful lot of the literature that is referenced. So if you open your article with the words, active learning is usually thought to be a more effective way of teaching than chalk and talk, and then put brackets and give 14 different sources for support for the idea of active learning, well, we are rather tempted to suggest that we don't need those. But nevertheless, we are getting more scholarly, more researched pieces. And Laura is with us. And half an hour ago, I was listening to Laura doing a piece from the University of Surrey. And she'd taken the notion of fun, and she had conducted a piece of traditional academic research around the word fun. Well, 20 years ago, Laura would have written an article saying, wouldn't it be nice if we all had fun in higher education? Today, she's produced a piece of research, and it's that change in our scholarly practice which has gone through the educational and academic development world in the last 20 years. It's, in my view, it's a very interesting and worthwhile development. Okay. I think the trickiest one is people who are nervous about publishing a 3,000 word article for fear that it will prevent them publishing an academic paper because it's already been published. And what we say there is use us as a sounding board as part of the writing of the academic paper. So try out ideas with us, and then when you prepare the paper, you've got a more grounded, a more authentic, a more respectable piece of work, but it will be different work. The only other time we've had difficulties is where people have printed off their own blog on their own web pages and expected us to print it, to which the answer is no, it's already been published. Publishing world is very complicated, folks. Right, SEDA specials. We've got lots of these, and they're the most popular of the things that we publish at the moment, apart from EdDevs, of course. And we have a maximum 50 pages, 20,000 words. And 20,000 words can be really 5 chapters of 4,000 each. I know it sounds a bit aggressive, but it's possible to write a SEDA special over the weekend if you've got 4 people writing the other 4 chapters and you're writing the introduction and the conclusion. We have a proposal form, we have a committee that chews it over, and we will give you an advisory editor to help you get the thing out and into the public domain. Okay? Everybody comfortable? That's our sort of standard object at the moment. Right, now, what we call YETI, Innovations in Education and Teaching International, is our high status refereed, reviewed journal, and it appears in the Social Science Citation Index, so it's possible to use it as evidence in a research exercise of one sort or another. They are asking for papers up to 5,000 words. They quite like book reviews as well. Gina Whisker is the editor, and she is always asking for us to find reviewers. So if you want to step into this world, one way of doing it is to offer yourself as a reviewer to YETI, and they will send you an academic paper, and you will have to write a review about it. I shall now impress upon you that SEDA's reviews are helpful, friendly, and supportive. If you send the paper to Studies in Higher Education, you may need psychological support for some months afterwards at the quality of the dismissal of your great masterwork. We are not the Society for Research into Higher Education. We very rarely write reviews of articles which leave people shaking and crying. Our reviews are to help people improve their work. What royalties there are go to SEDA, and the major information about it is on Taylor and Francis Online. So TANFOnline is Taylor and Francis Online, because that is the massive company that took over Routledge, and Routledge took over Kogan Page. And 20 years ago, we had a deal with Kogan Page, and Mr. Kogan signed it when he was still in his dressing gown. So you might be interested to see the way that publishing has changed over the years. SEDA papers were much longer. We don't really publish them anymore. They don't fit. People don't buy them, and we have very few people wanting to write them, except Ronnie Bamber's paper last year. Up to last year, we hadn't published it since 2011. But Ronnie has done a really, really important piece of writing here. This is about the relationship between the way we have to generate data of the sort that David Kernahan was talking about first thing this morning, and whether or not that process actually interferes and destroys the quality of student learning. And she did a big research project on the back of it, and we could not get that into 50,000 words. So we gave, into 20,000 words. So we gave her the right to extend it, and we published it as a paper. And it's one of the most desperately important things we published for a long time. And then finally, we have the SEDA series published by Routledge. I'm the general editor of that. So normally people approach me with an idea. It's 100 to 110,000 words. It's usually multi-authored, 1 or 2 co-editors, simple 4,000, 5,000 word chapters, but it's for an international readership. And that can produce problems because our language is not the same as other people who speak English, particularly Americans. So we have lots of curious difficulties with language, but that's a minor problem. And the royalties, miserable as they are, go to SEDA. I should tell you, folks, that if you think your pension is ever going to be swollen by being a publisher in academic work, I have very, very, very bad news for you. I would take up gardening.